Hello and welcome to your Fantasy Premier League one-stop shop. I'm your host Stephen Gallagher and today we're looking at all things Game Week 7. Let's get straight into it. Starting with the updates since Game Week 6, Alisson is out injured for the Chelsea match. Ekitike also went off injured in that match against Galatasaray. His return date is unknown so far. Should make Isak a solid option for the short term at least. João Pedro got a red card in his Champions League match, another red card for Chelsea. This means that his minutes in the Premier League should be pretty secure as he will be rested for the next match in the Champions League against Ajax. I'm filming this Wednesday morning, which means that Newcastle, Arsenal and Man City are still to play in the Champions League, Aston Villa and Forest in the Europa League, and Crystal Palace in the Conference League. And just to remind you guys, the deadline is this Friday at 6:30 p.m. UK time, not Saturday, so hopefully you don't get caught out with that one. Let's take a quick look at who's been conceding the least XG so far this season. At the top of the table, it is Arsenal, followed by Fulham and Newcastle. Bournemouth have been knocked down to 4th in this table, followed by Everton in 5th, and then surprisingly, Leeds and then Sunderland are ahead of the likes of Man City, Villa, Palace, Liverpool, Forest and Spurs, who you would say are all pretty solid defences, but Leeds and Sunderland putting up better expected goals conceded so far this season. If we compare each team's expected goals conceded with their fixture difficulty rating from a defensive perspective over the next 5 game weeks, we get this plot here. As you can see, Arsenal in the top right, they have the best defence and very good fixtures going forward. Newcastle and Fulham just a bit below them there, still solid defences with good fixtures. And then at the top of the plot, well, in the top left anyways, is Burnley, the most expected goals conceded so far this season, especially after that Man City match. But their fixtures are actually the best in the league over the next 5 game weeks from a defensive perspective at least. Also near the top of the plot is the likes of Spurs, Leeds, Brighton and City, so maybe not the best defences, but they do have decent fixtures going forward. So which defences should we be targeting? If we rank each team by their fixture difficulty multiplied by their defensive strength, we get this table which gives us an idea of who is most likely to keep clean sheets over the next 5 game weeks at least. Arsenal obviously top of the table, no surprises there. They have the best defence and their fixtures: West Ham at home, Fulham away, Crystal Palace at home, Burnley away and Sunderland away. The only really tough fixture here is that Crystal Palace at home fixture, and at least it is at home, but the other fixtures, the West Ham at home fixture, the Burnley and Sunderland away fixtures in game weeks 10 and 11, some really nice fixtures coming up for Arsenal here, and they're a solid defence, so you would play them against anyone anyways, but because the fixtures are also good, it just makes them a no-brainer here. Newcastle second in the table, they have Forest at home, followed by Brighton away, Fulham at home, West Ham away and Brentford away. A really good defence and some pretty decent fixtures going forward here. Not the best, the Brighton away fixture isn't ideal, but outside of that, you could see them getting clean sheets in this Forest match, in the Fulham match, the West Ham match and the Brentford game too. So they're a good defence and they've some decent fixtures. I think we may be sleeping on Newcastle defence slightly here. Third in the table is Fulham. They have Bournemouth away, Arsenal at home, Newcastle away, Wolves at home and Everton away. I look at those fixtures and I think those are not easy fixtures. Obviously their defensive strength is bringing them up the table here, but that Bournemouth fixture isn't easy. The Arsenal fixture, the Newcastle fixture, obviously Wolves at home is quite a favourable fixture right now, but then you have Everton away. So although Fulham defence has been really solid and the likes of Anderson is a very popular pick right now and rightfully so, I'm just not sure how many times I'd actually be playing him over the next 5 game weeks, bar this Wolves at home fixture. Spurs 4th in the table with Leeds away, Villa at home, Everton away, Chelsea at home and Man United at home. So a mixed bag of fixtures here. You can see them doing well in this Leeds and Villa fixture, although Leeds have been scoring a few goals, so fair play to them. Everton also been a solid attack, as well as Chelsea, one of the best attacks in the league, and then Man United, the less I say the better about them. But they've been an okay defence as well, Spurs. I think the next 2 fixtures is really where you'd want to get Spurs defenders in, with Leeds away and Villa at home. 5th in the table are Man City with Brentford away, Everton at home, Villa away, Bournemouth at home and then Liverpool at home. Decent fixtures here, to be fair. You can see City getting a few clean sheets over the next 2 or 3 game weeks at least, with the Brentford, Everton and Villa games. They've not been the best defensively, Man City. They did concede against Burnley there, but you could see them getting 1 or 2 clean sheets over the next 3. Onto the attackers, let's have a look at who's been creating the most XG so far this season. At the top of the table, it is Man City by a large margin, as you can see, followed by Man United and then Crystal Palace creeping into the top 3 here. They've been really solid going forward this season. Then there's Chelsea, Arsenal, Liverpool and Brighton, and then a bit of a jump down to the likes of Everton, Forest, Spurs, Bournemouth and Brentford. So you can start to see the gaps starting to form in this table. Man City, a huge gulf between them and the rest of the teams, and then that jump from Brighton down to Everton. Will be interesting to see how this trend continues over the course of the season. If we compare each team's expected goals created with their fixture difficulty rating from an attacking perspective over the next 5 game weeks, we get this plot here. No clear standout options in the top right of the plot. You could say City with really good expected goals data, maybe not the best fixtures, but does that really matter when they can score goals against anyone? Then the likes of Man United, Chelsea, Liverpool, Arsenal, Brighton, all in a bit of a cluster there. They all have really good fixtures. They all have decent fixtures, and then Palace is a drop down below them with similar expected goals data, but their fixtures are pretty tough going forward. Then at the top of the table we have Leeds, Wolves, Aston Villa with not the best expected goals data, but really good fixtures going forward. So which attacks should we be targeting? If we rank each team by their fixture difficulty multiplied by their attacking strength, we get this table here. Liverpool top of the table, they're just a solid attack. That's bringing them up the table massively, but they also have some decent fixtures. This Chelsea away fixture, not the best, but then they have Man United at home, Brentford away, Villa at home and Man City away. The Chelsea fixture this game week isn't ideal if you're thinking of jumping on the likes of Isak after that Ekitike injury, but then you have Man United at home, Brentford away, Villa at home. Those are fixtures that really, based off the data so far this season, you would be attacking those teams. So it could be a viable option to go for the likes of Isak over the next few game weeks. Chelsea second in the table here. They play Liverpool at home, followed by Forest away, Sunderland at home, Spurs away, and then Wolves at home. So the fixtures are really nice besides this Liverpool at home fixture, but they've also just got a really good attack. And like I said, João Pedro got sent off in the Champions League. He's not really been firing in the Premier League recently, but it's not necessarily his fault because Chelsea have had red cards, and playing with 10 men, it's hard to supply your striker with lots of chances. So maybe he'll come back once they start playing with 11 men. Third in the table are Man City. They have Brentford away, Everton at home, Villa away, Bournemouth at home and Liverpool at home. You could look at these fixtures and say, ooh, some tough ones there, you know, the Bournemouth fixture, the Liverpool fixture, but it's Man City and they can score against absolutely anyone. I think Man City attackers are a great buy, even after that Burnley fixture, which was probably the time to buy, but it just ended up being Erling Haaland getting most of the goal involvements. But there's still some good players in there, like Reinders, like Foden, they could go to invest in Man City attack. In fourth, we have Arsenal with West Ham at home, Fulham away, Crystal Palace at home, Burnley away and Sunderland away. Some really nice fixtures there with the West Ham fixture, the Burnley and Sunderland fixture. Other than that, the Fulham and Crystal Palace fixtures, not the easiest from an attacking perspective. We saw how good the Fulham defence is as well. But I do think the likes of Gyökeres and Saka should be worth investing in. I myself am looking to bring Gyökeres in this week. And fifth in the table are Man United with Sunderland at home, followed by Liverpool away, Brighton at home, Forest away and Spurs away. Not the best fixtures. Obviously this Sunderland at home fixture on paper looks quite solid, but we saw Sunderland have been actually a very solid defence so far this season. They were the only team to get a clean sheet last game week, so Man United players, maybe not the best time to attack the Sunderland fixture. I know a lot of us with Bruno Fernandes are looking at this fixture, and I'd imagine some analytical managers will be even potentially considering captaining Bruno Fernandes in this fixture. I'm not so sold on that idea, but I am happy to have Bruno in my team for this game week. On to the stats review, where we analyse the best performing players statistically. Players in red are the most expensive, in green are the cheapest, and the size of their bubble is relative to their minutes played. As you can see in this plot, in the top right we have Raya. He is one of the more expensive goalkeepers, as you can see, but his fixtures are good and Arsenal's data has been so good defensively. I think he's probably the best pick on wildcard. But if you want to go for a bit more of a budget option in defence, I like Petrovic in nets for Bournemouth. He is cheaper, and Bournemouth have looked pretty solid defensively. We saw their 4th for expected goals conceded so far this season. On to defenders, we're comparing defensive contributions with expected goal involvement. You can see Senesi topping the plot in the top left here. He's just been putting up so many defensive contributions, and I believe the only player to get DEFCON points in every game so far this season. Below him, the likes of Virgil van Dijk, Tarkowski, Richards, Lacroix and Anderson all putting up good defensive contributions data, and Anderson actually putting up pretty good expected goal involvement too. He could be one of those players that has a nice balance of both, and that's why he's such a good option in FPL in my opinion. And then on the far right of the plot, we see the guys putting up the most expected goal involvement. That's Timber, Munoz, Calafiori, and then just a huge jump down to the rest of them, where we have Anderson first of all, followed by Pedro Porro, another option that has kind of slid down the rankings in our thoughts as FPL managers, as we start to focus more on, the DEFCON monsters like Senesi, Tarkowski. So I think we will continue to see this trend of DEFCON defenders being the most popular picks in our teams. Moving on to the midfielders, we're still comparing defensive contributions with expected goal involvement. Mo Salah is here in bright red. He was sort of just on the average line for expected goal involvement in this plot over the past few weeks, but he is starting to pull forward and move towards the right of the plot, which is what you want to see for a player that expensive. But he is so expensive that it's hard to get an idea of the price of the rest of the mids on this plot. So let's remove him and have a look at the other players. You can see Bruno Fernandes on the far right of the plot, the midfielder with the most expected goal involvement so far this season, but he's also putting up really good defensive contributions data. That's why he is one of the more expensive options, because he has a nice balance of both of those. But if you really want DEFCON, then you're looking in the top left of the plot here with Caicedo, Anderson, Xhaka, Garner, Szoboszlai, Cullen and Gomez. Those are the players that have been putting up the most defensive contributions so far this season. On the other hand, if you just want to look for expected goal involvements, the likes of Mbumo, Sarr, Enzo, Semenyo, Anthony and Minta, these are all great picks in my opinion. I really like the Sarr pick. I thought he was slept on at the start of the season. I then got him in, and then obviously he got me a goal, but then he got injured, so not ideal. I am looking for a way to get him back into my team very shortly. And then also Enzo putting up really good expected goal involvement, and he's probably on penalties too with Palmer out injured, so he's a great option. Obviously Semenyo, a fantastic option in FPL. A lot of people have him anyways. Anthony at Burnley, he's probably surprised a lot of us, showing up so good. He looks good as well, like he's not just putting up good data, he is playing quite well. And then Minta, another option. He's only 5.9 million. He could be a really solid pick going forward. And then two players that continue to put up good expected goal involvement, but also good DEFCON data are Ndiaye and Paquetá. They've got a bit of a balance between the two stats there. Onto the forwards, we can see Erling Haaland on the far right of the plot. He just continues to pull away further and further away from the rest of the forwards. But let's remove him because we all know what he can do. And we can see the rest of the forwards. Mateta, still the forward with the second most expected goal involvement in the game, but his fixtures, as you can see, are pretty tough, hence why he is lower down in the plot. If you're looking for players with good fixtures, Calvert-Lewin's at the top there, Strand Larson, Ollie Watkins, the biggest troll so far. Once everyone sells him, he finally grabs a goal. Below him, there's Sesko, João Pedro, Ekitike, Richarlison. I'm not too sure I'd be going for the likes of Sesko. Obviously, Ekitike is out injured now. Richarlison is still a solid pick. I know a lot of us got him in for that Wolves at home fixture, and Spurs really didn't do much in that fixture. João Pedro, another one that I'm not sure you would be buying him now. I actually think he's an okay sell if you want to get the likes of Gyökeres, who has really good fixtures going forward. He is blocking Danny Welbeck here, but I do think Gyökeres is a good option for the fixtures. His data hasn't been amazing, but we know Arsenal can score, and Gyökeres has sort of got this reputation as a flat track bully is what we're calling him, because he just scores goals against the lower level teams, and that's not necessarily a bad thing for FPL. On to captaincy, I think Erling Haaland has to be number one for captaincy this game week. He plays Brentford, who haven't been the best defensively, and Haaland has just been the best player in the Premier League so far this season. He's getting the goals, he's getting the assists. He is just that focal point in the City attack, and they're always just looking to find his runs, and if they do find his run, he usually finishes finishes those chances. Then in second place, I've Gyökeres against West Ham at home. We're yet to see how West Ham will perform after sacking Potter and bringing in Nuno. Obviously, Nuno had such a good defence with Forest last season. Maybe he can shore up that West Ham defence, but I do fancy Gyökeres to do well in this fixture here. And then in third place, I've the troll Ollie Watkins against Burnley at home. Mainly just targeting the fixture here because if you looked at Watkins' data over the season, you wouldn't probably be going for him, but Burnley have just been so poor defensively, and Ollie Watkins does have it in him to have a massive haul, so I'm going to stick him in third. A quick shout out to Fantasy Football Scout, who have their own captaincy table in the members area. They have Haaland in first, followed by Bruno and then Saka. All great picks, to be fair. I think if you're not going for Haaland, there is a nice mix of players that you can go for captaincy this game week. If you want to become a Scout member to unlock the captaincy matrix, DEFCON tables, fixture difficulty tickers, then click my link in the description for a discount. On to my game week 6 review. I had 58 points on my wild card, but I did manage to get 32 points on my bench. Gabriel with a 13 pointer, Alderete with a 17 pointer, so could have been much better, but realistically I was never going to play Alderete. Gabriel was a player that I did actually have starting in my team until I went for Gvardiol instead of Dan Burn, so I hope I don't come to regret that decision too much. I already am regretting it a little bit, but we'll see how it pans out over the next few game weeks. On the bright side, I did have Senesi in there with DEFCON and an assist. Semenyo obviously scored a free kick there. Bruno Fernandes, -1 point after missing that penalty. So he actually could have had a pretty big haul there if he scored that penalty and just got one more defensive contribution. He would have hit the DEFCON threshold, so not ideal. And then my forward line, a bit of a disappointment besides Haaland, obviously. Captain in him was great, but then Richarlison and Evan Nielsen. Once I saw that João Pedro and Gyökeres didn't do anything, I was hoping that my differentials here would bring me up the ranks, but they didn't deliver. Hopefully they can deliver next game week, so let's see how we're looking. This is my team for game week 7. As you can see, the defense is really solid with Raya and Gabriel at home to West Ham, Senesi at home to Fulham, Gvardiol away to Brentford. I do have Van de Ven against Leeds away on my bench right now, and I'm not too sure I'm happy with that. I do want to find a way to get him into this team, but I just can't seem to. When you look at the rest of the team, Xavi against Leeds away, Semenyo Fulham at home, Reinders and Haaland against Brentford away, Evan Nielsen against Fulham at home, Bruno against Sunderland at home, and Richarlison against Leeds away. So it's really tough to find a way for Van de Ven into this team. Right now, I am thinking of doing Evan Nielsen to Gyökeres. I think Gyökeres is a great pick this game week, but also going forward, I was happy enough to see him blank last game week, and my plan was always to bank the transfer and do Evan Nielsen to Gyökeres. I'm not so sure about it now. I'm kind of 50-50 on whether I do it. So you'll have to tune into my deadline stream this Friday at 5:30 UK time to see if I do end up going for this Gyökeres transfer. That's all for today, folks. If you're still here, then thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Drop a like if you did and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We're aiming for 10,000 subscribers by the end of the season. Until next time, guys, have a good one.